Hey there, my name's Mark, and if you see me for the first time, I go by the pen name Mark Allard Will, both for writing for comics and for commentary on virtual cycling races on virtual cycling platforms such as IndyVelo and Wahoo RGT. So, it has come that time of the year. My wife Elaine and I have done our final Comic-Con, or our final show, if you will, of 2023. And this time we took a chance and did our first time at Prairie Comics Festival in Winnipeg. And what a fantastic time we had. We had no idea what to expect with such a long drive out there. Our drive there with stops in Indian Head and in Portage la Prairie. It ended up taking about 11 hours to arrive on the trip there, and after such an arduous long drive, myself doing all the driving, I had no idea what we'd be presented with, but we were presented with the most wonderful people, the most welcoming people, the most welcoming and warm comic fans, and also the loveliest fellow creators as well. And such a wonderful organizational team behind Prairie Comics Festival. And if you see this, thank you. It was such a wonderful show that happened at the very beautiful West End Cultural Centre in quite literally the West End of downtown Winnipeg. So this video is not about me. As you've probably seen from the past few videos about Comic-Cons that I've participated in, I've decided that what I really want to do is turn on a spotlight and position it to focus it on other comic creators beside myself. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to them. But before I let you go, I'm just going to let you know that there, as a disclaimer, there is one interview that I shot in Edmonton Expo, and that is with Sho Uehara, so you'll see that as it comes up. Why didn't I shoot any others with creators from Edmonton Expo? Well, that is because I've largely interviewed most of those creators and shown them on this channel before, and there are other creators who maybe don't need the exposure, who are on larger publishers, and I also didn't get very much time to be able to break away from my table at Edmonton Expo, unfortunately. So without any further ado, I'm now going to hand over to those creators from Prairie Comics Festival.
Hi, I'm David Howell. I'm from Winnipeg, and I did my first graphic novel, Dancing with Woody. It's a bit of a supernatural suspense type of a thing, and the reader really has to follow through and gets a good twist at the end. And this year at the festival, I'm also releasing two of my comic books, The Legend of the Goblin's Eye, #1, and Legends of the Goblin Eye, #2. This will be a 4-issue arc, and by then the story will be over.
Fantastic. And how did you get into creating comics?
Well, I think by coming to this festival, to the Prairie Comic Festival, coming to the seminars and seeing what the other creators were involved with, and I said, gee, after 3 festivals, time to get involved.
Fantastic. And where can viewers of this video find more about your work?
Oh, I'm on, I have a follow on my Instagram, Toonstalk on Instagram, and basically that's where I go from, and my Facebook.
My name is Sho Uehara, and I am a freelancer and cartoonist, and I make comics and picture books and illustrations.
And what was your first work that you kind of broke into comics with?
I feel like my first book about the Monkey King, Repose, was my first break into making a fully realized story in comic book form, and that one was self-published. So my first dive into comics was a self-published experience.
It's so funny. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to begin their journey into comics?
Oh, what advice?
Yeah.
Good question. I would say if you have a story that you want to share and you're looking for a medium to tell it in, and comics are probably the best. It's great for anybody at any level to start with. So you don't have to wait for someone to approach you to do a story. You can get them started on your own. you'd be surprised at what you can do.
Awesome. And where can people find your work online?
They can find my work online at showyouhorror.com, and I have all of my socials and links and stuff on there, and my online show. All the links are there, so just showyouhorror.com.
Hi, my name is Rotem Diamant. I go by Ro, and yes, I'm a artist, and I also do library stuff, and my work is sort of semi-autobiographical and surreal and experimental sort of poetry comics that sort of act as an emotional diary in a way, I guess. And lately I've been exploring themes of reconnecting to Judaism and my sort of family history, kind of examining that, and yeah, trying to reconnect to my culture. And yeah, I've been a huge comics reader, but in the past few years I started with illustration, and then I was always really intimidated to make comics, so I just started making mini comics and zines, and now I'm working on my first long-form comics project, and I'm about 160 pages in, and yeah, that's been a real learning experience, constantly learning every day. Yeah, I can't think what else to say.
And how did you begin your journey with comics?
Well, I've always loved them a lot. I used to read, like many people, Archie comics when I was young, and my mom had a boyfriend that would lend me or would give me like his old Mad magazine and like small format, like, you know, Peanuts and stuff like that. And then I'd stay with my dad on the weekends, and I'd read the Saturday morning cartoon from the newspaper, and he never had a television, so he had like a giant drafting table, and he'd sit on one side of the drafting table and he'd do wax carving for jewelry, and I would sit on the other side, and I'd like recopy characters from the newspaper and Archie comics just for hours. And I guess that's what got me a little bit obsessed with them. Maybe at first I kind of was, you know, begrudging, you know, him a little bit for not having television, but I think that probably getting used to that practice and finding I really loved it has sort of seeped into how I draw now. And, you know, he would always have the radio on, like the CBC or something, and now I listen to podcasts, but I can just really, for my brain, I can just sit down and like hyper-focus on something for hours and hours, and it just feels good, and I feel like myself when I'm doing it. Yeah, I guess that's and then also I really love personal stories and autobiographical comics. It sort of got me through a lot of really difficult experiences in my life, and I made a comic about really horrible renting experiences in Toronto when I lived in a rooming house when I first moved there for a bit, and I really just loved what that did to that experience. Like, I felt like it helped me get through it. I could take it out of my brain, put it in a zine. If I wanted to, for some reason, revisit that horrible experience, I could, and I can kind of look back and laugh at myself and the situation now. But it was really awful at the time. Yeah.
And where can viewers find out more about your work?
So I'm on Instagram at Rotem Anna Diamant, and I also do work for the Canada Comics Open Library. It's a small nonprofit community library in Toronto, and I'm not based in Toronto anymore. I moved to Victoria about 3 years ago, but I'm originally from Winnipeg, and but I help with like grant writing and website stuff, and it's a project very close to my heart, so a lot of my work is on their website and then stuff that they do. And I also have my own website, I guess I should mention. It's just my name, rotemannadiamant.com. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Scott B. Henderson, and I'm the illustrator on such graphic novels as A Girl Called Echo, This Place, Seven Generations and The Reckoner Rises, all published through High Water Press, a publisher in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Stick with that.
Fantastic. And how did you get into comics?
I have been drawing for as far back as I can remember, always drawing pictures to stories. And then in high school, started taking it a little bit more seriously. Went through fine arts program through the University of Manitoba for a few years. And then that's all I ever do is draw and write comics. And eventually it led to some paid projects with High Water Press, and then that led to other ones, short stint with Marvel, and another short one with Jeff Lemire, and it just keeps going, so it's great.
Fantastic. And how can viewers find out more about your work?
I'm on Instagram, Scott Henderson Art on Instagram. For the time being, I'm also on Twitter, or whatever it's called now, Ouroboros09, my handle there. I also have a WordPress website, which is scotthendersonart.wordpress.com.
Comrade is a Winnipeg comic anthology series. So in each issue we have a collection of short stories, all from Winnipeg artists. We do themes for the issue, so there's issue 4, Sweet and Sour, and our latest issue, which we're launching today, is After Midnight. And yeah, so we like to give the artists like a 2-word prompt, and then they take that and they just run with it. And you know, we love to see like how it's interpreted by every artist so differently, and then also seeing the stories, the short stories next to each other with such different art styles, just really makes for a really cool booklet. And we've got, like I said, 6 issues now. We're totally like funding ourselves as like kind of a cooperative, so any sales we make goes back into making more books, and Matt and I just like volunteer our time. We're the 2 co-founders of the series. The first book had stories by the 2 of us, and then like 1 additional 3rd person. And yeah, like it's been quite the ride. It's really like we're just trying to lower the bar for access, or the bar for entry for artists, right? Like trying to lift up Winnipeg artists and make it more accessible to actually get their work printed in an issue in a book that they can like hold in their hands. Artists can also buy the books from us, and we just charge slightly above the price of printing, and then that way they can sell the books at their own conventions if they wanted. And we've got like 2 stores that we're kind of working with now, where they buy the books wholesale, and then they can sell them in their shops. And we're trying to maybe start working on doing some deals now with other local artists doing different crafts, and maybe see about making maybe like small batch merch, things like that. And yeah, we're just really community minded and wanted to give back to the comics community that we both felt like when we entered, like they were so welcoming and just really took us in, and like were so encouraging, and yeah, just wanted to find a way to give back to that community.
Fantastic. And how can viewers find out more about Comrade?
You could just DM us. We have just an Instagram as our main social page. It's just at Comrade Comics. And yeah, that's where we kind of post everything. That's where we'll post when there's coming a new issue, like what events we'll be at, and the artists will do like a profile page for each artist that's in the next issue as well. So that's kind of like the main spot to kind of find out what's going on with us.
Alright, well there we go. You've seen those wonderful messages from all those lovely creators, and I will let you know before I sign off today that you have not seen every creator that was at Prairie Comics Festival. If I did interview everybody, this video would be ridiculously long. We'd be looking at a 2 or 3 hour video. Also, I didn't have all the time in the world to be able to interview everybody. I've also got to be at my table selling and signing comics as well. But that being said, to give a fair shake to everybody who was at Prairie Comics Festival, and I do want to give exposure to all creators, I have put a list of all creators who were at the 2023 Prairie Comics Festival right down below in the description of this video. So in summary, we had a wonderful time at the Prairie Comics Festival, and we met so many wonderful people. It was a true shining endorsement of both Winnipeg and Winnipeggers. So we had a wonderful time, and I wish to sign off by saying thank you so much if you came to see me or my wife Elaine, and if you brought our comics, took a look at our comics, had any conversation with us. You're just truly wonderful people that we got to meet there. So thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of 2023, and in terms of comics, I will see you again in 2024. Thanks again.